And welcome back to another edition of Research Fantasy presents our NBA DFS picks for Monday, February 5th, 2018. Usually I'm going to do picks over the weekend. This just happened to be a little bit of a busier weekend, so I couldn't get around to it. But we should be back next weekend, especially considering that once the Super Bowl ends, pretty much all the way up until next August, you're going to be dealing with, really next September, you're going to be dealing with sports every Sunday, usually a fair enough amount of games that it's worth playing the slate, especially once baseball starts. You're typically looking at most teams playing Sunday, so you're looking at between 7 and 12 games depending on the week. So we'll definitely do a lot more to get content up here. Want to look at my 3 favorite plays in the higher dollar range tonight. I think that there's a pretty good chance like 2 or 3 of these are going to be really chalky. To me, this really comes off the page as a pretty solid cash game night because there's a number of players who are in that like mid-level range. The first player we're going to talk about is not, he's a high dollar player, but enough players in that mid-dollar range that I think you could really put together some solid lineups with, make a good amount of money on cash games tonight. The only problem is everybody's probably going to be doing the same thing, but that's honestly something you really can't count on in DFS. You can't count on people performing a certain way. Anyway, let's get things kicked off with our stud, who I actually think is probably going to be the lowest owned of all these players, and that's Damian Lillard, 8,100 on FanDuel, 9K on DraftKings. Other than the game that McCollum completely controlled, Dillard has been very good, has produced multiple 45-plus fantasy point outings, and quite frankly, that's what we're looking at from him tonight. On DraftKings, at least, FanDuel, we get a little more flexibility, and that's what makes the price even better over there, is that you've got a 5-point swing, basically, with things like steals being worth a little bit more. So if he ends up coming up with a couple of those, you are further ahead than you would be on DraftKings. The Pistons, to me, just really haven't been that tough defensively. Since Blake Griffin comes over, I don't really look at Blake Griffin as being a great defensive player, or maybe a good one. But, you know, these teams are still, both teams have really brought it down to the wire against the Pistons. It's a small sample size. You can't look at 2 games and expect it to be reflective of how things are going to go. But this Portland team is very good. I expect this game to stay close. And these are the kind of games where Lillard has 50-plus fantasy point upside. And I think other people are going to spend down at the position to the next guy that we're going to talk about, which is Ricky Rubio, making Lillard a really, really strong tournament play. Speaking of Ricky Rubio, he comes in at, we'll just call it too cheap, 7K FanDuel, 6,500 on DraftKings. And this has been pretty much what we've seen out of Ricky Rubio for the better part of the last 2 years, not including this year, is that he struggles to get out of the gate, but once he gets out of the gate and he's given opportunity, he catches fire and he does really well. And the benefit of Rubio is he's a triple-double threat, and when I say that, I'm saying he's one of the lower-end triple-double threats in the league, but he can, because he can rebound, he can assist, he's going to get points, and then the benefit is he can steal the ball. I don't care who he's going to be going up against. It's really one of those things that's people tend to freak out a little too much over when they really shouldn't. It's really all about opportunity. I believe, personally, there's very few circumstances in the NBA where you're faced with a true shutdown situation, and a lot of times it comes down to pace that really drives a person's floor lower. So I'll take the depressed ownership on him. I don't think his game matches up really well with New Orleans. I think this should be a really, really good spot, especially if Donovan Mitchell plays. If Donovan Mitchell plays, I think you will probably see Rondo on Mitchell, Holiday on, it would probably be Holiday on Rubio, but you could end up seeing Holiday on Ingles or something like that. We'll have to see. But either way, I mean, Holiday's a decent defender. He did lock down Paul George pretty decently, and it's not the first time he's done that. So I think I'm looking at Ricky Rubio as well as everyone else tonight. Everyone else is definitely looking at Ricky Rubio. Let's wrap it up. I think I want to go to the Charlotte game. To me, this Charlotte Denver game seems like another game that could have a really high total. Both games, I mean, since Nicolas Batum has gotten over his shoulder situation, like, This dude has been so good, and not only has this dude been so good, but this Hornets team has just been scoring points by buckets. And he's sitting at 6,800 FanDuel, 6,700 DraftKings, putting him under the 35-point threshold. We talked about Rubio being a triple-double threat. Well, Nicolas Batum is unquestionably as well. He does everything. They like to get the ball in his hand in the first quarter. I know that irritates a lot of Kemba Walker owners because Kemba kind of ends up coming out slow from the gate because of the fact that we have Batum handling the ball so much. But that bodes well for Batum's price being like 2K less than Kemba. I do not think that Batum has the same type of ceiling. He still has a high ceiling relative to his price, so he's someone I'm going to work at getting into my lineups tonight. All right, that'll wrap it up. 3 favorite plays in the top dollar: Damian Lillard, Ricky Rubio, Nicolas Batum. Hope this helps you out. I think that gives you a nice solid beginning for your cash game core tonight. And I think these guys still can hit value and go over value and make them viable tournament options. The only thing that keeps them from being high-end tournament options is just the fact that you're going to probably be dealing with a pretty sizable ownership on them. All right, thanks for watching. If you could, I would really, really appreciate it if you could like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps us keep on being able to give you all this content for free. Again, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you again tomorrow.